Thank you, Chair.
Right, well that pretty well wraps it up. And I'll just say the next time we come to present, it would be quite useful to get a little bit more on the Global Auckland Research Project, which is a success thing, but I don't think there's quite the understanding, and clearly the film studio issue will be more advanced again, and it could be Kumeu Wood or whatever, you know, we just need a little bit more information.
Yeah, we've got this workshop in February with
okay.
council, so...
Well, if we could add the Global Auckland Research Project to that workshop then.
That's what the workshop's for.
Oh, okay.
Take that. So when we come back and report in 3 months' time,
Yep.
we can give an update on the outcomes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Madam, have a good Christmas.
Yeah, well,
Yep.
thank you. Merry Christmas to yourself from the executive team, the team and the board. So I wish you all good Christmas and safe travels. So, yeah. And make sure you look out for some good events.
We will, but we hope you don't take a break. We want you building more.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Regional facilities. Thank you for your patience. We've made up a bit of time, but not enough. So Sidon and Chris and Simon. Welcome.
Simon Tran, well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and once again we always see this as a privilege to come before you, and being a new committee, of course, we congratulate those we didn't meet last time who've been elected to your committee, and be assured we want to work with you in the best possible way. We do take great value, of course, the importance of you, the shareholder. We want to know what your thinking is in terms of the kind of things we're doing. We have been pretty intent from the time we were established on looking after the money. Whether we're getting money from commercial purposes or from the ratepayers directly from yourselves, all this money belongs to the people of Auckland, and we have never any doubts about that. So in essence, we describe ourselves as being a body of facilities designed to produce a commercial return, but with a social conscience. Our original books, as you probably know, were barely respectable and mostly not understandable, but we're delighted to say now that the number of audits we've had in recent years, that they have all been very clean and very positive, and we want to ensure that continues. So at this point, of course, we are looking at your letter of expectation and continue with a statement of intent. Yes, we will continue to have commercial revenue growth across our facilities. We are continuing so far to see a reduction in the council operational funding. We will continue to drive commercial outcomes in the best possible way, and as I said, to also get good social outcomes. And two of those, I think I would be worth describing. The summer in the square right beside us here. We've always felt this square is very, very underutilised. We want to see it as a busy place where people enjoy coming to, and I think you'd agree that the people who are participating in these events now are just enjoying being in Auckland, in Aotea Square, and listening and seeing what is there. Then, of course, at Christmas time, we will produce the Auckland City Mission Lunch down at the Viaduct Event Centre. So these are just two examples of pretty much pro bono activities which we see we have responsibility for, but at the same time, you have to understand the bottom line and the balance sheet. Now, I think at this time it's more appropriate, Mr. Chair, to pass over to Chris Brooks, our Chief Executive, and Simon Tran to go into some more details, hopefully to keep you well informed. Thank you.
Thanks, Sidon, and good morning. Look, I just thought I would just touch on two or three key things. Clearly, you have the report up for the first quarter, but I just wanted to give you an update in terms of our financial performance up till the end of November. Overall, our performance is in line with budget. We're slightly down on revenue, but we have a favourable expenditure budget at this point. The business does get impacted by both the market and the weather. For instance, Auckland Conventions business has been probably lost a little amount of business this year due to some market volatility by some of our existing customers. And Auckland Zoo is significantly impacted by weather. For instance, November has been one of the wettest weekend weather patterns that we've had for a number of years, and we can go from crowds of sort of 3,000 to 3,500 on a great day, on a good day at Auckland Zoo, to a couple of hundred during wet weather days. So those sort of things have an impact in terms of our overall financial performance. We're still increasing our level of commercial revenue across the business up to 66%, of that being externally generated for the 5 months to November. And we have good confidence that we'll achieve our budget outcome that was set by Council for this financial year. Our capital program, we've got a fairly large and varied capital program underway at the moment. We're running slightly behind in terms of that for this year, for the first 5 months. And as you can see, we've got a number of projects there that are at different stages, and I won't go through those in any detail, but happy to answer any questions on that. We work through sort of a business case approval with the board for each of these projects that goes to the board for approval before any of those commence implementation. But as I said, there's quite a range of projects underway, some that are in their planning phase and some in their construction phase at this point. If I can just touch on some of the issues that we're looking at the moment and some of the challenges and risks. Clearly we're aware of the view around the living wage. Just to advise the committee that that will potentially have the impact of about $1 million on our organisation. We employ a large number of casuals, particularly within Auckland Live. We are looking at the moment as to how that could work through the business. A lot of our costs through Auckland Live are passed on onto customers, but we would probably have a phasing in period where we'd be able to recover some of those costs over the period, but there would be a bottom line cost to RFA. We're doing some modelling on that, and we'll have working with council staff, and we'll have a better indication of that in the near future. Our asset base, I think as we've touched on before, we've got about 1.3 billion in assets, and we're currently only spending about 3% of that value on renewals funding, and considering some of the iconic buildings that we have, that's probably considered quite low. We of course have the ongoing challenge of responding to our customers' needs, and I think as we all know with customers, the requirements of customers are getting greater at all times, particularly from a technology perspective, and we're continuing to work through to see how we can respond to that and address our customers' needs better. And just the issue in terms of the convention business with Sky City coming on in 2019, that will bring more competition into the convention market. Obviously it's competition we'll have to face, but with the size of Sky City Convention Centre now being, which was reduced from the original idea to something that's pretty close to what we can deliver, it'll be a more direct competitor into the marketplace, but that's something that we'll have to address and look how we can face that competition. We're looking at the opportunities also from in terms of our CapEx, how we can address our sustainability initiatives a bit better. How do we capture water? How do we use better lighting into all those sort of investments that we're putting into place? What's our carbon footprint? Are we going to actually look at to run zero waste events across some of our activities as well? So we're addressing all those things, and we'll be able to sort of give further updates to the committee on those in the future. And I think at the committee meeting that we had last week, we spoke about the work that we're doing on philanthropy and sponsorships. We are quite keen to see how we can actually increase the level of sponsorship across the business. We believe we've got some naming right opportunities across some of the business units, and also event opportunities. And we have 2 foundations in place at the zoo and the Auckland Art Gallery, and they're starting to raise funds through a philanthropic approach to that as well. So thank you, Chairman. Happy to take any questions.
Councillor Sayers, Watson, Casey, Simpson and Quacks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your interim report and update, gentlemen. My question just goes around the financials. Okay. can't see many numbers in there. And despite that, around the operational costs, you heard me ask the question of the last presenter in terms of the ability for us as councillors to drill down a little bit more into the operational costs and how deeply we can drill into the figures that you do have, but we haven't seen today. Could I just get comment on how we can do that, or is it possible?
We're happy to give you all the figures you like. There are pages and pages and pages, but I think if you can be more specific in some area, we could probably better respond to you. But the answers are all there if we know the specific question.
I guess, Sir Don, it's just a question around the transparency that we get as councillors. So perhaps I could put something together and get it through to you in terms of an expectation.
Yeah.
And just on the financials, there's a balance that we can disclose because parts of it's commercially sensitive because we are either in negotiations with potential hirers or our profits out of each of our events. There is a sensitive part of that, so there is a level that we can disclose or not.
So just to clarify that so I understand, so are you talking about work that's coming up or work that's been expense that has been already spent? When you talk about commercial sensitivity, in terms of the numbers we can see that you've already spent the money on against budget, your actuals, are you saying some of that's commercially sensitive?
So the baseline operational costs are not as sensitive, but where we generate 66% of our revenue, we do negotiate things like concerts, for example. When we bring these concerts in, we are negotiating with promoters in terms of what their cut is.
Probably we'll need to go to that detail.
Absolutely, yeah, just trying to get that balance right.
Okay, yep. Thank you for the comments.
So I just remind councillors that if you're seeking more information on finances, for example, you would go through Robert Irvine and Alistair Cameron, okay? Not directly to the CCOs.
All right, thanks, Ross.
Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Chris. So my question goes to one of the key deliverables, specifically as it goes to capital projects and Western Springs. Two questions really. One, what is the anticipated capital spend at Western Springs? And secondly, to what extent is that tied in with the discussions with New Zealand Cricket and increasing the number of test matches from one every 2 years to make that a viable investment?
Can I just interrupt a little bit here, because I probably didn't answer your question properly last time on this. You know, because we've always taken the view that cricket is a dominant sport in New Zealand, and we do believe that that New Zealand's biggest city should have an international cricket ground, and that was really the beginning of the development of Western Springs to produce a true international cricket ground. So we're in the early stages of that, but Chris has got more figures for you.
Councillor, so the initial work that we've done on Western Springs would say that somewhere between $60 and $70 million would be needed.
60 and 70. 60
to 70 for the development of Western Springs. Now, as I said, that's initial. We haven't completed the business case for that. We haven't addressed it. So that's the sort of investment that we think would be needed, but it's very early.
And that would be proceeding irrespective of the number of test matches that were secured through any discussions with New Zealand
Cricket.
Cricket.
Clearly, in any business case that we'd build, it's got to be based on there would be test matches, as I think I've mentioned before, Australian Football League matches as well, and clearly we've also got to cater with things like with clubs like Ponsonby Rugby as well. So it's that component, but it's early in terms of where we are at the moment.
Okay. My second question going towards the other main stadium in your stable, that's Mount Smart, and specifically the major capital items dealing with a better customer experience, and perhaps just leaving the concert aside for a moment, but in terms of the Warriors and NRL, one would say that the best customer experience would be a winning team, and in that respect, has RFA given any thought to tying any improvements over and above needed maintenance to a performance incentive on their part, either by making finals or alternatively by stumping up with a bit of dosh themselves?
Maybe you could play fullback.
We certainly haven't tied any of the capital improvements to the performance of the team, but do note your comments on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of the work that we're doing at Western Springs is obviously covering both NRL and concerts.